Welcome to the Ku-ring-gai Council Public Forum. The Public Forum is an opportunity to share your views on any issues on the Council meeting agenda and on other general matters that are important to you. It provides an opportunity for councillors to hear directly from the community, understand the needs and concerns of constituents and make more informed decisions. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here this evening. Before we begin, I'd like to outline a few procedures in relation to this evening's public forum. I want to remind everyone that this is a public forum and we must all be respectful of each other. I remind councillors of their oath of affirmation of office made under section 233A of the Act and printed at the front of the business paper. All attendees must comply with the Code of Meeting Practice and other relevant council codes, policies and procedures. This meeting is being recorded and the webcast will be published to Council's website. Councillors, council staff and speakers will be shown on camera. Attendees must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, publicly alleging breaches of the Council's Code of Conduct or making other potentially defamatory statements. Any statements made and actions taken by individuals are those of the individuals making them and are not endorsed or supported by Council. Councillors, council staff and members of the public must ensure that mobile phones are turned to silent during the forum. Councillors and council staff must declare and manage any conflicts of interest that they may have about any item of business that is on the agenda this evening. A few reminders for our speakers this evening. Speakers cannot use or present any props, audio or visual material. Any written material must be lodged when registering or handed to staff. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address council. A chime will sound when you have 30 seconds left to speak. If I could just ask speakers if you could just remain there for a couple of seconds just so we can check to see if any councillors actually have questions for you. If you have a lot to say, I encourage you to submit a written submission. Each councillor may ask a maximum of 2 questions. Speakers are under no obligation to answer, but if you do, please limit it to 1 minute. Speakers cannot ask questions of councillors or council staff. Are there any conflict of interest declarations for councillors? Okay, I have a conflict for GB5, which is the Ku-ring-gai Sponsorship Program 2025. The St Ives Multicultural Food and Wine Festival is noted as a recipient of the grant. I am a member of the St Ives Rotary. I'll be staying in the room as I haven't been on the Food and Wine Festival Committee or the board for a number of years. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any other conflicts. Speakers. So we will start. We've got a number of GB items and a couple of general matters. So our first speaker is, the topic is Ku-ring-gai Council Sponsorship Program 2025, which is GB5, and that is Jasami Field, who we'll be speaking for. Yep, just make your way to the lectern and just, actually if we could just press the button.
Is that one? Great. Thank you, Mayor, thank you, councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on GB5 in support of the recommendation that Council approve funding for the events, arts and cultural and general sponsorship applications. My name is Jasami Field and I'm here with Giselle Beale, the chair of the newly elected committee of Marion Street Theatre for Young People. As most of you are aware, Marion Street Theatre for Young People have over the past experienced some significant financial difficulties. I'm pleased to advise that our recent motion to wind up was withdrawn. This is largely due to a new Guardian of the Arts program and a philanthropic pursuit where we successfully received donations from the community for a 3-year period. In addition to funds pledged, we have a new financial and operational structure that we have implemented. We are excited, given Marion Street Theatre for Young People's long history in the area, that we can continue to foster creativity, build confidence, and support mental health and well-being in our young people. Giselle brings a financial background to the committee and I have a marketing background. Together we are focused on invigorating the profile of the Marion Street Theatre for young people in the community. Our brand recognition has diminished since the physical theatre closure some years ago, and we need to promote our services across the LGA to attract new audiences, including using improved digital marketing methods. We appreciate the proposed arts and cultural sponsorship amounts of $25,000 and $1,500 for promotional costs. We are focused on increasing the awareness and participation in performing arts in the area, and this sponsorship greatly assists in this endeavour. In addition to providing performances, we look forward to participating in council events like Youth Week and reaching more students through holiday workshops. We are very grateful and implore the councillors to approve this recommendation from your staff. We thank you, the council, for all the support that you've given us over the many years, and also the Arts and Cultural Committee. MSTYP is committed to collaborating with other small arts organisations to ensure a vibrant arts culture within the community. As a general matter, we also support the option 4 in relation to potential rates variation, which would greatly benefit the arts community in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Doesn't look like there's any questions, so thank you. Thank you, Jasami. Our next item is GB7, which is the draft nighttime economy action plan. We have 5 speakers and 1 written submission, and they are all for that item. So I will ask for Anthony Peter Bates, if you'd like to come to the lectern.
Speaking for Evelyn Mason, so we've got a double up. That's okay. I'm just going to read out Evelyn Mason's.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine. Yep. So you're instead of Evelyn.
Instead, also the first speaker is not me. I'm speaking later, but on this motion, I'm speaking for Evelyn.
Oh, okay. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so Evelyn Mason, thank you, Mayor, thank you, councillors, thank you, community. Evelyn Mason is well known to some of you. She has had a lot to contribute to the community and is the current president of the Ku-ring-gai Horticultural Society. She's on our committee. She wrote a paper for council in 2017 called Funding Marion Street Theatre. And she has some thoughts around how can we enliven Ku-ring-gai Council's nighttime economy? And so I'm reading those on her behalf. And her approach is, what is the most successful activities in Sydney? Sydney is alive at night, filled with cultural and social and recreational activities that cater to all sorts of tastes. So here's a quick snapshot. She talks about the Sydney Opera House, and she talks about the Art Gallery of New South Wales with late night exhibitions, the outdoor cinemas like the Moonlight Cinema and the Westpac Open Air, the dining and the socialising in rooftop bars and night markets at Chinatown and Paddington, the scenic walks around the harbour foreshores with the lights going and everything lit up like a Christmas tree. She talks about live music and entertainment. She points to the Camelot Lounge, the Marble Bar. They're known for cabaret, for jazz, for indie performances, the Comedy Store, the magic shows around the Sir Stamford Hotel at Circular Quay. She talks about family-friendly fun at Luna Park, at Sydney Observatory, and the fireworks at night. So which of those activities could we transpose into Ku-ring-gai is what she asks. And she thinks a lot of them could be transposed into one precinct around Selkirk Park, Marion Street and the Kalara Village. She says if we could redevelop the Marion Street Theatre and the adjacent Selkirk Park, we could have all of the elements above: theatre, art space, outdoor cinemas, lights, festivals, eating and dining. The old Marion Street shops, the old Kalara post office, the theatre would provide vital dining and socialising space so desperately needed in Ku-ring-gai. Summer nighttime markets in the park would be well attended. She can imagine a scenic walks for older citizens and for people interested in gardenings and all of the old houses all around the area with their base at the Marion Street Cafe. And she imagines that dance classes and the Kalara Musical Club, the Ku-ring-gai Horticultural Society, who used to call Marion Street their home, and Marion Street Theatre for young people, all of these sorts of cultural groups coming together and staging live performances and shows for all age groups. So a much needed cultural hub. And she imagines that Selkirk Park could be turned into a mini Luna Park, where parents can meet at Marion Street Theatre, at the cafe, socialise with their kids, bring their grandchildren, outdoor cinemas, live performances. All of these things could be done in that one place for all ages, one precinct, not only for Ku-ring-gai residents, but also for the whole of Sydney. Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you, Tony and Evelyn. So thank you. Our next speaker is Matthew Hayes, but I'm not quite sure if Matthew's here. No, okay, it doesn't look like he's here, but we'll go on to the next speaker, and if Matthew turns up, he can speak a bit later. So our next speaker is Wendy Blackson, who is also speaking on GB7, the Draft Nighttime Economy Action Plan. Representing Marion Street Action. Wendy.
Mayor, councillors, staff, community members. I represent the Marion Street Theatre Action Group, which thoroughly supports GB7. Ku-ring-gai's Nighttime Economy Action Plan sees thriving village hubs that come alive after sunset, welcoming, accessible gathering places where varied communities can connect. It sounds wonderful. Yet one perfect place hasn't been mentioned in a suburb without a thriving village hub, Killara. But it does have a welcoming, accessible gathering place where varied communities can connect through live performances, I'm quoting what you have said, and cultural festivities. Yes, Marion Street Theatre, and it has a DA ready to go. Oh, but does the community really want it? Well, in Ku-ring-gai's own long-term financial plan, according to independent research that Council commissioned, 54% of those interviewed were somewhat supportive of a rate rise to fund infrastructure like a theatre. That's over half the people interviewed. And to rebuild this theatre now honours the history of the area. Earlier this year, I interviewed two women for my book on the theatre's history, granddaughters of Marion Edwards, whose father, James George Edwards, named Marion Street after her. Then the theatre adopted the street's name. Mr. Edwards is known as the father of Killara, a school teacher, one of the first Ku-ring-gai aldermen, determined, hard-working and far-sighted. Mr. Edwards developed the area, lobbied hard to get the railway built, and began many local facilities: the golf club, tennis club, church, the old Gordon Public School, all financed by becoming an estate agent, then a property developer. And Mr. Edwards also helped build the community hall that we now know as Marion Street Theatre. Marion's granddaughters say she could have been a concert pianist, but it wasn't deemed suitable. So she played at concerts to raise money for charities. This is the heritage of those who created Killara, people who used much of their wealth to benefit the community. Marion's granddaughters, Sue and Jenny, brought Marion Edwards alive again. I felt I could almost hold her hand through them and maybe shake her father's hand and say thank you too. We should honour this tradition and see the theatre as a huge opportunity which will enable us all to thrive. The perfect place for the nighttime community to give Killara its own small village centre. Thank you, Mr. Edwards and Marion.
Thank you, Wendy. Our next speaker is Adrian McLean, who is also speaking on GB7, the Draft Nighttime Economy Action Plan.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, Mayor and councillors. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, I'm Adrian McLean, the newly re-elected President of the Ku-ring-gai Chamber of Commerce, and I'd just like to share a little bit about our journey so far, and certainly in support of the nighttime economy. This has been a year of development for the Chamber, and we're looking for avenues to grow the Chamber. Our membership has grown over the last 2 years from 17 members to 47 members. We've delivered 24 quality events over the last year, and our average attendance is growing to over 30 per event. We've secured funding from the federal government for our Shop Local campaign. The goal for this campaign is to help the community to put money back into their community. Behind every business is a business owner with a family, and their staff have families, so putting money back into the community makes an enormous difference. We've applied to Ku-ring-gai Council for funding for $2,500, which is going towards activations in the village precincts, and we're hoping to connect with local businesses and the community. One serious challenge that we're facing is empty shops, and I'd like to speak about Turramurra Station and the 2 businesses that have been forced out at Turramurra Station. And there's also the empty shops at the Roseville precinct. These are prime footprint areas and really need some attention. With respect to the nighttime economy, Ku-ring-gai Chamber would like to congratulate Ku-ring-gai Council in the actions to create new opportunities with the nighttime economy initiative. We support the upcoming motion. Whenever there is a discussion about the nighttime economy in Ku-ring-gai, people's eyes roll and there's a bit of a giggle because there isn't very much. Ku-ring-gai Chamber will support as much as we can as a non-for-profit the Ku-ring-gai Council initiatives to activate nighttime activities within the council area. Okay.
You've still got 30 seconds.
Okay. Our initiatives are with the Shop Local campaign, the inaugural Ku-ring-gai Local Business Connect Expo, and we're planning a Ku-ring-gai Chamber Goes to the Movies initiative, a monthly event, and possibly that could be the theatre if we had one. Our membership target is ambitious, but we're looking to grow to 100 members by next year.
Adrian, if you could just, I've got a question from Councillor Matt Devlin.
Thank you, Adrian. Thanks for coming and speaking about the Ku-ring-gai Chamber of Commerce. It's been good to attend alongside the Mayor a couple of those events, and I appreciate the work that you and the Chamber are doing. I would just question, just on the Turramurra Station and the precinct around that space, you made reference to a couple of retail outlets that vacated. I was led to understand that the garden centre left of their own accord, and that was with relation to trade, not so much the rent, but that might have been a loss to the garden centre down at Bunnings. Were you asserting that council operated that land, or?
No, I spoke to the owner, and she said that the rent had gone up, and that it was unviable to continue, so they closed the business. Right.
And that land is sitting in the Transport Asset Holding Entity for Transport for New South Wales, yeah?
Empty for, nearly 2 years. And the little cafe that was on the, Turramurra Station, that was purpose-built when the station was upgraded, that has been empty for as long as 2 years, if not longer.
Does the Chamber have a plan, or are we working under the MOU between Council and the Chamber to do anything about that? Well,
the Council suggested that I write to Transport of New South Wales, which I have done, and I've sent an email to the CEO of Transport of New South Wales to see what could be done.
Have you sorry, I know I'm asking a few questions, it's just an area that I'm interested in. Have you had any feedback from that?
Not yet. I'm going to have to send a second email.
Okay. Thanks very much,
Okay.
Adrian. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
I think you asked a few questions for the other councillors, Councillor Devlin, but that's okay. All right, our next item is GB 18, which is application to seek the minister's consent to grant a licence over community land. Our speaker is Janet Harwood, which will be speaking against. Now, Janet, looks like you've got a couple of items after that. If you could just remain at the lectern, if that's okay. Whenever you're ready.
Madam Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, I tend to always speak about things that are 10 years or 20 years ahead of us. So pardon me if I sound a bit strange. I'm not against EVs at all. In the February storm that we had, winds were so severe due to so many trees being removed that birds' nests were blown out of trees and we were without power for 4 days. Our electric car battery provided power to run the freezer. It gave us some lighting and helped with the cooking. In Ku-ring-gai environmentally sensitive area, an environment manager must be working on more critical, urgent matters like rewilding the local government areas' lost biodiversity. This request of the local government minister is too limited. It's too hesitant for the times. We should be thinking of what is coming in the next 10 or 20 years. The local environment manager who put this report forward must calculate the loss of rare soils to concrete, because we can't regenerate the forest for the rest of the city. In July 2008, the Department of Environment wrote to me, this is in 2008, and said, conservation is achieved within the planning process. So I wrote a submission to the then planning panel in December 2008, and guess what happened? The very next year, the bushland and the sustainability reference groups were disbanded. 15 years later, today, environment in Ku-ring-gai is still controlled in an outdated fashion. We need to think ahead. Talking about a car battery charger, when instead we should be talking about putting electric wires underground in a test area, or using communal batteries where streets can be powered by a battery. In environmental breakdown, the energy response is already outdated by a biodiversity and insect crisis. So we should be updating what we're talking about and asking of the local government minister.
Okay, thank you, Janet. We'll move on to the next item. It doesn't look like councillors have any questions. So GB 19, I believe you'll be speaking on submission to the New South Wales Net Zero Commission consultation, and you'll be speaking against.
So this continues what I said previously. The Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure is truly outdated. It is giving incorrect advice to the elected government, distracting attention and public money, and directing qualified public services resources in the wrong direction. Why? Removal of rare trees from this local government's canopy is negating the net zero effects of the environmental manager. A letter that I found on the parliamentary website shows that the department advised the local government minister saying that the very policy, the biodiversity conservation policy, which should be protecting trees, is allowing councils to regulate tree removal. And what are they using? Council permits. So, this removes the high conservation value of this local government area, which should be leading the way to net zero if we're making big gaps in our canopy. It also removes the net zero efforts which our environment manager has been allocated to work on if we are sending the Granny Springs and Kissing Point Road proposal to gateway determination, because that is bound in the next 10 years to destroy the Granny Springs Reserve. If the environment manager is compromised, captured, and his work is negated, and if regulatory functions are not assisting the protection functions to achieve net zero, then this report and our submission to the Commissioner needs correction. It's the General Manager's responsibility to protect this local government area, and the community's efforts to protect the local government area must be supported by the environment manager and by councillors. So I've given, I haven't brought it, but there's a letter that I will give to the general manager which proves what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you, Janet. I've just got one question from, looks like Councillor Sam Nye,
Thank you, Janet.
or maybe two questions.
Just one. Thank you for coming. I've got a question about the previous item and the electric vehicle charges. I was wondering, what are your thoughts on GB16, the dual occupancy floor space ratio proposal for a standard? Like, are you supportive of GB16? Because I would have thought that would have had a much bigger impact than GB18 about electric vehicle charges.
Sorry, what was?
I'm not sure that
I
that
don't think
question
I,
is relevant or,
I know
Okay,
what
doesn't look like this.
We can cover this afterwards then.
Okay. You could probably email Janet afterwards. Okay, Councillor Devlin has a question for you.
Thank you for coming along, Janet. My question's through you, Madam Mayor, to the staff. Have we got a public information evening upcoming with relation to the particular development proposal that's been referenced in these comments at the Kissing Point Road Pacific Highway?
We don't answer, it's only the questions to the
withdraw.
residents, so unfortunately the forum, but we're happy to address that at a later point. Director Watson has advised me it is on public exhibition.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, 3 minutes is too little to go into any serious discussion on these things.
That's why we recommend that you can put a written submission in if 3 minutes is not enough for you.
Because we are in the position, with all our schools and our clever people in here, doing so much for the next 10 or 15, 20 years.
Okay. Well, that concludes our items on the agenda, so we'll now move to general matters, which Janet Harwood, I believe you're speaking on the governance and structures as the topic. So whenever you're ready.
At the previous public forum, I told you about 20 saplings that were pulled out of 1 Cherry Street block. This is way back, going back 15. In fact, what has happened in Cherry Street is the whole street is now converted to concrete apartments. So 20 saplings that disappeared are now a big apartment block, but the whole street is finished. The same is happening at the top of Sheldon Forest. And 48 blocks have been built in a 1 to 2 kilometer radius of Tarahumara Station. And these blocks, lot amalgamation means they wipe out between 6 and 8 old gardens and soils. Governance and new structures in local government, like development assessors, risk and tree managers, community engagement management, are simply supporting the rezoning that is allowing this to happen. Protectors, I think I've already talked about this, such as myself who go to protect a tree, are seen as a risk. The protectors are seen as a risk, and the police are called. So the Environment Committee that we have, is it a recreation committee in disguise? Is it truly about the environment? Tree management uses these council permits to remove protected trees. And risk management, as I said, calls the police if protectors try to protect. All this negates the conservation value of a critically endangered local government area. So these structures are not doing what we need to do for the next 10 or 15 years. The resulting land use in Sheldon Forest, Hillview, and the Little Village Park, for example, which are all in the proposed transition town and landscape museum, have been blocked and delayed, just like the Marion Street Theatre. And I was called delusional when I tried to put this forward, but maybe I'm 15 years ahead of the planning department. So, pulling saplings out and removing protected trees to let rezoning go through is not just crude, it's also a crime against nature and future generations. So the environment manager, when he's looking at this net zero and these other issues, he must look more at environmental issues, which are crucial for our survival.
Thank you, Janet. We have a question from Councillor Devlin, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Janet, the earlier point you were making about that Tarahumara Kissing Point development, you were suggesting that before we make a decision about gateway determination, are you aware that the previous term of council already conducted held a resolution and resolved that it be progressed to the gateway decision and that the determination was made earlier in the year?
Yes, I am aware of that.
So given that, what is it that you were asking us to undertake in that?
Well, I have to say that I've already written to the state government to say that, and I've got a picture here, there are 5 precincts in Tarahumara. If each one is zoned the way this one is zoned, it would be much bigger than Hornsby, 5 times bigger than Hornsby. But what I'm trying to say is that Tarahumara should be a transition town planned in such a way with the federal government so that we look at issues such as grey water, fire, all these things that are coming at us due to climate and biodiversity loss, and try and make a new concept of meeting the future. Not just multi-story buildings, because multi-story buildings mean cumulative impact, all the humans that are going to use the rare reserves that are left in that particular area. So thinking ahead, these reserves are not for recreation. They should be kept for the future as they are, to preserve their ecological integrity.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Janet, I've just got a question. You mentioned the Environment Committee. I was just wondering what your expectations of the Environment Committee and what you expect them to deliver the outcomes for their community.
The way I've been asking to the federal government to be heard is we need a much more scientific approach to protecting what is left of indigenous native forests and soils and seed bank. We've already lost so much, there's hardly any hope of regenerating it. So I don't think the current Environment Committee is capable of doing this on its own.
So what are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that somebody sit with me, as I've been asking, and we write a proposal with new zones, graded zones, and new ideas, so that we can update the current planning system and ask for the rest of New South Wales to use the same system. We have the capacity to start that. So I'm saying that this Environment Committee can't do it.
All right, I'm asking if you can maybe email myself and the General Manager what you've just suggested, and we will then get back to you with what we can achieve out of that, or if we can refer anything to the Environment Committee.
Thank you
Okay.
very much, because I'm now at a federal level of what I'm doing.
I understand. Thank you, Janet. Our next speaker is Anthony Peter Bates. Well, Anthony is how you registered, prioritising the arts in the context of the special rates variation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Representing
Thank you,
the
councillors.
Marion Street Action.
Yes, I am. Arts and culture together in our neighbourhood is what that stands for, in case you haven't heard me say that before. Let me take you on a very quick 20-year journey, because in 2005, Council had a community workshop which was to consider Marion Street's future. And as a result of that, Council published Marion Street in the Future in 2007. In 2008, they published the Marion Street Feasibility Report and wanted to build a National Centre of Excellence. In 2013, they published the Soft Tread Report, followed by the Curry Report in 2014, Evelyn Mason's Funding Report in 2016, a community petition in 2018 with 3,616 names. In 2019, the Left Bank Report, and that led to the Marion Street Community Reference Committee, which I sat on, which led to a DA in August 2021, and last year we had another report called the Hydromedial Feasibility Report. But in 2024, you asked your residents in a survey as part of your long-term plan, you asked 501 residents whether they would support increased rates for various expenditures. More than half of the residents, 54% of the residents, said they would be prepared to pay for a theatre. More than 50% of residents said they would pay for other cultural facilities. More than 50% of residents said they would be prepared to pay for community buildings. And yet these things seem to be ranked a little bit further behind drains and paths and footpaths, and I understand that, but it's the way the SRV options are, it's option 4. You know, the arts is option 4, kind of a luxury. Last month I attended the Nighttime Economy Business Forum in this very room, and almost every participant rolled their eyes, as Adrian said. They said it's dead. There's nothing. It's asleep. And tonight your Nighttime Economy Plan, or next week, is going to be adopted, which specifically asks to address the social needs of your diverse community. In particular, and these are your words, family-focused activities, because 46% of residents are parents with children. Cultural and arts programming, recognising that we have an affluent, diverse and well-educated population. Accessibility and inclusion, because we have diverse abilities, ages and cultural backgrounds. Community connection, we need to tackle social isolation and build stronger neighbourhoods. And intergenerational engagement, which brings together different age groups and life stages. Oh my God, the arts does that very well. That's what the arts does. Why are your business people telling you that your LGA is quiet? dead, get off the train at Clara Station and look up at a building that's been asleep for 10 years. That building was chosen by your residents and the land was built on land selected by your community, and it's been dark for 12 years. The DA took 16 years of reports and consultations. When you meet next week on the 19th of August, you'll have less than a year on that DA left. Try and imagine what Evelyn and Wendy and others have imagined. Try to imagine what 54% of your residents says they're willing to pay for. We will build this, and I'll see you all in the foyer.
Thank you, Tony. No, it looks like no questions. Our last speaker for the evening is Wendy Blaxland. The unique heritage of the land in Clara on which Marion Street Theatre stands, representing the Marion Street action.
Remember Sue and Jenny, who told me about Marion Edwards, whose father named Marion Street after her and helped build the community hall? As I listened to them, I suddenly realised that they were descendants of an extraordinary woman I remember every time I passed through Clara Station, Matilda Fish. I could bring their ancestor alive for them because I wrote a play about her life. In 1821, Matilda Fish lived with her 4 children in an isolated cottage right where Clara railway station stands today. Matilda's first husband, father of her children, had died in India in the first cholera plague. On the boat back to Sydney, Matilda accepted a proposal of marriage from the ship's first officer. When they married, according to the laws of the time, he now owned everything that was hers. In 1821, this area was isolated and rough. No railway, no highway, and dangerous, because of a gang of bushrangers, the Geary Gang. They invaded Matilda's home when her husband was away, took her youngest baby at gunpoint from her arms, and stole everything valuable from the cottage. Later, they also held up her 14-year-old daughter. William Geary and others was later hanged for crimes, including this. How Matilda Fish coped with this terrifying incident and its aftermath is inspirational. She suddenly became poor overnight with 4 children to raise. Her new husband soon disappeared aboard another ship. Matilda Fish was wealthy when she remarried, but she couldn't sell any land because it legally belonged to her husband. It took at least 5 years for him to be declared dead, so Matilda could sell some property for everyday expenses. Despite this, Matilda's children did well. One daughter married a son of Robert Pimble, whose name is commemorated in another suburb. Matilda Fish fought for her rights. She didn't give up, despite everything. The reopened Marion Street Theatre can let people hear this story and countless others, from Aboriginal people, from people of all cultures who now live here. Trace the links from Matilda Fish in 1821 to her daughter and Robert Pimble, to James George Edwards, to Sue and Jenny, to us and our descendants. Let's honour our heritage and reopen the building in which we can share our stories.
Thank you, Wendy. Yes, I think maybe a clap for Wendy. No questions. I love your inspiration and enthusiasm, Wendy, and it's always nice for you being our last speaker, I must say. So that is the conclusion. So thank you to everyone for participating in tonight's public forum. The webcast of this forum will be published to Council's website tomorrow. The Council meeting will be held at 7 p.m. next Tuesday, and you are encouraged to attend in person or view the live web stream via the Council website. I encourage you to continue to stay engaged with Council and share your feedback. Thank you again for your participation. I declare the meeting closed at 7:45. Good night.